Hi everyone, welcome to Foxon Media Digital. My name's Amy and today I'm joined by Jarkko Syyrila, who is Executive Advisor on ESG at Nordea Asset and Wealth Management. So welcome Jarkko, it's great to have you.
Thanks, Amy. Really pleasure to have a chat with you.
Yeah, of course. And you spoke at TSAM ESG back in 2022. So it's great to have you on the channel just to catch up and put a little bit of a spotlight on what you're doing in your work right now. So before we dive into some of the topics around ESG, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing at Nordea?
Well, I've been working in the asset management area for a long time, 30 years more or less. Started as a regulator at national level, then went to ESMA's predecessor, CSAR. Then I moved to the industry. I've been working on the advocacy side, public affairs. At IMA in the UK, at the pharma. Now I'm with Nordea since I think 8 years, working in the public affairs area. My focus really is the ESG regulation. Of course, it's been a tsunami of regulation. Of course, very good calls. I think we all agree that it's very topical, of course, and we understand the climate change issues. But for the industry, as we know, it's also a challenge, to implement. So I'm focusing on what are the rules coming, informing the business management what's coming. We are trying to influence those in discussions with dialogue with the EU officials. And overall, trying to stay tuned, what's coming on the regulation, trying to have our voice heard, and also, of course, represent our clients' interest in that.
Great, and of course, it's an ever-changing environment. So where are we now at the start of 2023? What's happening in the regulatory space, and what new updates have you got your eye on?
I mean, of course, this new commission, this commission actually, when it was new, I mean, they were really, bombarding us with proposals, and we got taxonomy, SFDR at the European level. Now it's like 1.5 years left, for the mandate of this commission and European Parliament. So we are starting to see like the last, moments of this commission's agenda, and I think. Taxonomy SFDR have been like the big markers for our industry. There's still dialogue on those. We get Q&As coming and stuff like that. But in a sense, it's a bit slowed down the Commission's process. Especially on the taxonomy, we got the two first climate criteria already almost like 2 years ago. Now for the fourth remaining environmental criteria, the Commission has delayed. Now we're still to see those delegated acts. So I think there's been some slowing down of the Commission's regulatory wave, so to speak. What we are expecting this spring, I think, is still a Commission proposal on the ESG rating providers to have European regulation on that. But apart from that, I think it seems to be that we're seeing the big initiatives from this Commission, and it's more like implementation mode. And going on to supervisory mode, and I think we will discuss greenwashing in a moment. But I think it's moving more to supervisory. We are implementing the rules. They are there now, the SFDR level 2 and so forth. So it's really implementing and seeing what the supervisory action then going to be. What is ESMA going to do? What the national competent authority is going to do in this sphere. So it's a bit moving from regulation to supervision, actual supervision.
Makes sense. And of course, I know we'll have to see what the supervisors actually implement and what happens with all those delays as we catch up with the regulations. But where are we in terms of the data then? So in terms of what we can do now and what has been published, is data credibility, accuracy and reliability still lagging behind?
Data is a key issue here. The data gap is still there. I mean, we have all these obligations under taxonomy, SFDR, on asset managers, to have an understanding of what's in our portfolios, what's the ESG impact of our investee companies. Those companies still don't have the obligation to report. I mean, we now got the European level directive on the CSRD, so the Sustainability Reporting Directive. It's only been published. It starts to be implemented. There's still almost 2 years to go before we got that data. The first waves of data in the market under that directive. So there's still this data gap, and so as large as the managers as we are and all the rest, we have to rely on those data providers, trying to get the best data in the market, buying it from various sources. Of course, it's expensive, and the credibility. You can always ask, what's the credibility? Because if you compare the ratings or data from various providers, they differ to a great extent. So it is in a way an unfortunate situation where there is this data gap. We have heavy regulatory obligations to fulfill, and of course we, like any other asset manager, we are trying our best, to be sure that we have implemented the rules as best we can, and not doing any greenwashing. But the data gap is a big issue, and it's going to be there still for a couple of years before we have these EU obligations coming into force, and really the big companies starting to report all this information, of course, and then moving on to smaller companies and so forth. So it's going to be many years of evolution in this area. So still, a lot to be done to close the data gap.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about what can be done then, you mentioned that data comparability is an issue, from data sources, different suppliers, things like that. So do you think the regulators are the ones who will solve that by sort of applying some kind of standardization, or do you think that will make it more of a box ticking and narrow exercise?
Yeah, as I said, there's something coming from the European Commission on that, but I'm not sure whether that will help. If you compare to rating agencies, we have EU regulation rating agency for a long time, but they don't regulate the methodologies. That's of course for the agencies to do and justify an argument. What methodology they are applying. So yeah, I think we'll have some European regulation on the data providers and on the ESG space, but I'm not sure how much that will help, because you cannot expect that the regulators define the methodology, how to do your rating. So what I'm trying to say here that yeah, it's going to be some regulation for EU for sure, but whether that actually will help to help with the comparability, I'm not so sure, because how could the regulators really enter in this space and actually be like better raters than the rating agencies? So yeah, regulation is coming, but whether that actually will help with the real issue of comparability, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, as you say, and it's down to the industry as a whole to formulate the best approach when it comes to data.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have to be like really, as an industry, we have to basically have our best efforts basis to implement and really just be sure what we're doing is the best we can do under these premises. So it's we have to be taking responsibility as an industry on this, because this credibility of the ESG data we are using is a key issue for our industry, and we see this big greenwashing discussion coming up. So it's an issue for the whole credibility of the asset management industry that we do our best to have the right or the best available data and apply it to our portfolios, because this is going to be a bit of a challenge for the reputation of the whole industry. If we start seeing this year, next year, huge amount of publicity on all asset managers are just greenwashing, and they don't deliver what they're promising. So this is a big challenge for the industry in the year next year. So we have to do our best as an industry. We cannot rely, and we shouldn't trust that the regulators do it for ourselves. We have to get our act together and really take responsibility as a major industry, the asset management industry. So it's up to us to live to the standards.
Yeah, let's talk about greenwashing a little bit more, because you've touched on that a couple of times, and as you say, that ties in really well. There's a lot of discussion around greenwashing at the moment. So where are we in terms of the rules on naming ESG funds, the attitudes to fund labels, and what are currently people talking about in this space?
But it's interesting. A couple of points there. We have this eco label at EU, which European Commission has been developing, having this kind of label for retail investment products, especially funds. And they have many drafts over the couple of years, but they seem to be they're putting the bar so high in terms of taxonomy compliance and alignment and so forth. So there was just a recent test by ESMA, and only a couple of more than 100 ESG funds were tested against these criteria, and only a couple of those actually would fulfill the eco-label criteria. So that doesn't seem to be flying. It's the bar is too high for that really be a helpful, let's say, label in distribution in a wider sense in Europe. So that's not really flying. Then we have a lot of activity on the greenwashing area. We have European Commission has asked ESMA and EBA and EIOPA, so the European supervisory authorities, for guidance on this issue. And there's just been a consultation that was just closed on this issue 10th of January. So all the banks, all the asset managers, replying, how do we actually define greenwashing, whether we see that in the market. And I think it's a really difficult issue to define at the moment, because there's so much talk about greenwashing and suspicions, but how do we actually define it? Given that we have this data cap, we have very unclear regulation, a lot of uncertainty on the regulatory requirements. So what is greenwashing? I guess if you really think about it, it probably should be something that when firms really intentionally try and like flex the regulations, or try to mislead their clients, saying, okay, we are very green, we are very sustainable, actually knowing that they are not. But completely another thing I think is living this with this uncertainty of what are the rules, what is the data. And I think majority of asset managers, we are just trying to grapple with that and trying to do our best in that situation. So clearly there's going to be a lot of regulatory focus from the NCAs and European authorities this year on this issue, but it's a hard one, because also how do then the regulators define what is greenwashing, what is behavior that should be sanctioned like by the authorities. So what is real greenwashing? So that's a really difficult dilemma, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of focus on this, both sides, also on the industry side, of course. Internally, we are very committed to avoid greenwashing. So I think we, like I'm sure all the firms are, trying to have a good governance in place. How do we define sustainable for our products? How do we label our products? So all that, of course, it's a key business decision for the firms, because, as I said, regulation doesn't really give you final guidelines on that issue. But then coming to your third point, the naming, that's of course the latest issue we have coming up from ESMA, European Securities Markets Authority. So naming of ESG funds, and they are consulting now that until 20th of February. And we are just as firm and industry, we are putting our views together, because they're actually, for the first time, ESMA is setting limits that, if you want to have ESG in the fund name, you have to have 80% of your asset sustainable investments. And there again, one can see the point that they want to have some discipline in the market. But the key problem there is that they start putting limits, percentage limits. But the underlying, what is a sustainable investment, that has not been defined. So actually, it's premature to set these percentage limits when you haven't defined the underlying asset. So what is sustainable investment? Every firm is now defining their own way. What is sustainable investment for Nordea is different, I got it from BlackRock, Vanguard, or whatever. I'm not sure how big difference, but at least everybody is under their own means defining these things. So then ESMA setting parameters and percentages limits. One can understand the regulators want more clarity, more comparability in the market. So I guess they're pushing through with this, and despite what the industry will be saying. So that is bit what's happening there, and interesting to see how it then directs the market and developments there. Certainly, I think many fund houses will have an issue of naming the funds, especially I think it's in the bond space, in balance funds, because for bonds, getting these ESG criteria and labels, high percentages in bond funds, it's very difficult, because as we know, for public entities, they are not under any of these ESG criteria and classifications. So for bonds, it's really much more difficult than for equities. On the equity side, it's pretty clear. You can see what are the companies, and they have their ESG profiles and reporting. So at least you have information way to base this ESG rating, so to speak. But for bonds, balance funds, where you have a lot of public debt, it's really difficult. So that's a bit of an issue also for the naming, but also in terms of risk diversification, because if you think about investors who want to invest in sustainable products, they might go to the website of a provider. This is a sustainable fund, and of course, if it's only equity funds, then actually it enhances the financial risk for that client. So I think this is a bit of a dilemma in what ESMA is now suggesting. So I'm sure there will be a debate on this, but for sure the regulators want some guidelines also on the naming. So let's see what happens. But yeah, I think this greenwashing, this naming thing, it's a big debate for the industry this spring, and I'm sure it will impact how fund managers name their funds, how they categorize them. Of course, we see a lot of reshuffling from Article 9 to Article 8 and so forth. So let's see whether that continues. But yeah, it's an interesting situation where firms are really trying to operate as best they can under all this uncertainty. So very, very interesting situation, very challenging. But of course, also understanding that as a big industry, we have this responsibility. We have to be more sustainable in our operations. So I think this is something we have to be doing. No question about it. But of course, all this uncertainty doesn't help with getting the right solution as quick as we can.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and as you say, there are so many developments with the regulations, the data, the greenwashing debate. So we've got a lot to watch out for in the next 12 months. But as a closing thought, what would you like to see from the industry in the next year and beyond? What are the main things that you're looking forward to from ESG?
Well, I think I'm just hoping that we all can do our best, in serving our clients, in this very difficult situation. Also the market, and we have the war still going on in Ukraine and so forth. So very tough times where we all are trying to serve our customers as best we can. I think just on the ESG side, just hoping that we all, feel the responsibility, to see that as an industry, as I said, this is a reputational issue for all of us. So the media, the green NGOs are following us like hawks. So I think we all have a shared responsibility as major asset managers, to ensure that we do the right thing, and we are seen to be doing the right thing in this space, and being a big responsible industry. We have a big responsibility. So just a word on the responsibility. I think I feel for the industry.
Yeah, very good points there, and that's all you can do, really, isn't it? When it's so difficult to navigate. So it's been an absolute pleasure, Jarkko, to have you on the channel, and of course, thanks for future ESG summits of ours. So thanks for joining.
Thanks for the chat, Amy.
And thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to follow our YouTube channel for more content on challenges and opportunities in asset management, wealth management, and ESG. And don't forget to give this interview a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button.